Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Tori. So we all know that Booktube is an incredible place. It's a wonderful community where you can find people who geek out about the same kind of books that you love. You can be part of discussions, you can watch other people's discussions, you can make amazing friends, you can be exposed to all sorts of new books and expand your reading tastes and your reading abilities. There are so many amazing perks that come with being part of the Booktube community. That being said, there are, of course, also downsides, as there are to everything. And one of the things I currently feel very passionate about is how Booktube has essentially destroyed the way I read books and how I'm going to try and fix it. On January 1st, I will officially have been a Booktube creator for 5 years, which is kind of insane, and it also means that I've been around for a while and I've had time to really see how being part of the Booktube community has impacted me, not only as a creative, but also as a reader. For that entire time, I have always kept track of my reads on Goodreads. Why? Because I'm too lazy to change to anything else, to be perfectly honest. But that's going to be helpful for us because what Goodreads has done for me, despite its multiple flaws, is help me keep a record of my reading throughout the years, how many books I've read, what kinds of books I've read, and that's been super helpful. At the end of 2023, I made a book called I Read 100 Books and I'm Never Going to Do It Again. It's the end of 2024 and I'm on track to read 100 books again this year. Now, granted, it wasn't as stressful this year, but I'm still on my second year of having read 100 books in a year. And I wanted to do a little bit of a follow-up to that video by cracking down on my reading habits for 2025 because something has got to change. Now, I want to reiterate once again that I'm not pointing fingers here. The pressure and the problems that are coming into my reading habits are completely my fault. However, there is kind of a culture of Booktube that I feel like has contributed to a lot of the pressure that I have felt or the decisions that I've made in my reading, and I feel like it is time for me to take control back. So let's talk about some of the things that I've noticed that have drastically changed my reading habits over the years. If you look back at my Goodreads reading challenges from 2020 through 2024 and the 4 years that I've been doing Booktube, you can see a trend, right? You can see that I started out reading about 60 books a year. I had a year where I had massive burnout and I just kind of took a break and I only read 20-something books that year. And then it continued to climb. I read 102 books last year. And this year, I'm at 94 books at the beginning of December, and it is quite likely that I will hit 100 books again. So as you can see, there has been an upward trajectory of how many books I've been reading through the years. Now there's a few different reasons for that. One is that I prioritize it more because I have a Booktube channel and because there are so many books that I want to get to through the year and I'm so excited about them, and that obviously hasn't changed. One of the things that I noticed last year that I brought up in my video, and that is definitely true again this year, is when I'm reading that many books in a year, for me personally, and everybody's gonna have a different threshold of what's too much, I don't retain as much as I would like to about these books, and the numbers do start to become, for me at least, more noticeable. I'm a numbers person. I'm not very analytical, but I do like to see numbers. I like to set goals and accomplish them, which is one of the reasons why I always set my Goodreads challenge way below what I know I'm going to read that year, because I don't ever want it to become something where I'm reading just to fulfill a number. So I always put my Goodreads challenge at around 50 books because I know that I'm going to blow past that. Even at a comfortable level, when I first started Booktube at 60 books, that's still plenty more than the 50 in my reading challenge. However, one of the things that I've noticed I've gotten into the habit of is just constantly reaching for the next book. In my mind, I'm almost reaching for the next book before I have ever finished the one I'm reading. I'm already thinking ahead. I'm already looking at, okay, how much time do I have left this month? How many more books can I read? What books am I going to read? And it really takes my attention and immersion away from the book that I'm currently in. And that's not fair to me as a reader, and it's not fair to the book I'm reading. The other thing I've noticed is that I have this pressure that I've kind of put on myself to pick up books I have to read, quote unquote, versus books I want to read. I can't tell you how many times the last couple of years when I've been reading a book that it was okay, I wasn't like crazy about it, but I didn't feel like I could put it down because I wanted it to count. I wanted to be able to talk about it. I don't want to miss out on the discussions. I want to be able to leave a review. And I don't leave reviews for books that I DNF. I talk about them sometimes in my monthly wrap up, but I don't write reviews for them typically, and I don't really discuss them because I don't feel like it's fair to have deep dive discussions on books that I haven't finished. And that's just a personal thing for me. FOMO is a huge thing on Booktube, and we all know it. It is so easy to get caught up in all of the books that everybody else is reading and wanting to try new authors and try new series and try new genres or whatever. And it's really, really hard because I feel like it has impacted very heavily my ability to read series. I used to binge series, you guys. Even when I first started on Booktube, I could pick up like Malice by John Gwynne and just binge through The Faithful and the Fallen. I think I read those 4 books in a grand total of 3 weeks or something like that. I don't know how to do that anymore. I allot myself time, right? I put everything in a box and I say, okay, I'm gonna read book 1 this month, and then I'll read book 2 next month. And part of that is helpful because it means that you're not trying to squish too much into a single month. But I also feel like rigidly adhering to those I need to read these books this month has really taken away from my ability to just finish a series that I'm really into. And it makes it a little harder to continue on the series because if more time has passed between the books, I may not remember as much that was going on in the previous installment, which of course then again makes my reading a little bit less immersive. Now, retention is something I've brought up a couple of times already in this video, and we need to talk about it because I know retention can be difficult for a lot of people, especially somebody like me who has ADHD. My brain will wander no matter what you try to do to wrangle it in. So retention is not something that I am particularly gifted at to begin with. However, I know that there are some things that are contributing to that. We're going to talk a little bit about some really exciting things I have in the second half of the video that I'm going to do to try to help that next year. But in general, when I go to film a review or talk about the book, if I don't do it right away, I don't feel like I can really give a thorough and articulate review of the book that I've read because I'm already like 5 or 6 books past it and I don't remember what happened or the names of the characters or any of that. And I know a lot of us struggle with that, but I think for me, part of that is because I'm constantly already mentally in the next read that I don't let my brain really sink in and categorize and think about and process the book that I'm reading as much as I should. Last year, I put out a video called I'm Quitting Booktube TBRs, and that actually did help me this year. One of the things that I had noticed is that setting up a video where I lay out exactly what I'm going to read for the next month really made me nervous because I felt like mentally I was being put in a box, and I felt like all my reads were spoken for the next month and I didn't have any wiggle room if I wanted to mood read or if I wanted to take a different direction. I felt like I had to produce reading in the books that I had claimed for my audience's sake. And that wasn't pressure that the audience was putting on me. That was just my pressure of I made a promise and now I need to deliver that. So I got rid of TBR videos this year, which has honestly been great. You guys, I don't miss making TBR videos. I loved being able to tell you guys what I thought I'd be reading the next month, but honestly, it stressed me out so much to have a list that I felt like I had to follow and deliver on. So getting rid of TBRs has helped immensely because I do feel like this year I have had way more choice in what I wanted to read and a little bit more flexibility to just reach onto the shelf and grab something new that I was feeling that day. And that has helped a lot. So even though I have read 100 books or will have read 100 books again this year, it does feel more relaxed than it did last year. So that I think was a really good thing for me to implement last year, and I will definitely be continuing that into 2025. So in conclusion, some of the problems that I'm facing and trying to figure out how we're going to fix in 2025 is my retention of the books that I'm reading, being able to really give myself time, and instead of focusing on the content creation side of reading, focusing on the reading side of reading and the content creation coming out of that and kind of reprioritizing. Being able to swerve and just binge a series if I want to, or pick up a random book. So now the fun part of the video, you guys. I'm so excited to talk to you about all of the things that I am going to try and implement for 2025 and how I think that is going to improve my reading habits. So this last couple of weeks, I undertook a pretty massive project and I cataloged in a spreadsheet every book on my shelves. So after looking at spreadsheets and organizational tips and videos and a bunch of amazing booktubers who are already very good at that sort of thing, I sat down at about 10 o'clock at night one night and just decided, you know what, I'm gonna catalog my library. And guys, I can't tell you how awesome it was to see the library on quote unquote paper, right? Like seeing the list, making drop down boxes where I can put if I've read it, if I still have it on my TBR, just gives me a visual of what I am working with and gives me the satisfaction of being able to mark things off on something that's personal to me as opposed to something that's more communal like Goodreads. Now, something that I'm going to start utilizing that I've seen on several booktubers channels that I think is really cool is because everything is now in a spreadsheet, and that includes my Kindle reads, I can use a number generator randomizer to pick random reads every month. I think one of the things that has been missing in my reading habits is a little spontaneity, right? We got to bring the spark back. So I'm excited to utilize the number randomizer to just maybe one or two reads during the month, just randomly pick something from my TBR. I think that's really going to do a great job of kind of jostling the monotony that my brain tends to get into when I'm just going book to book to book, and bring a little bit more of that excitement and, ooh, what are we gonna get? It's like a treasure hunt, right? So I think that's gonna be really, really fun next year, and I'm excited to do some videos where I do reading vlogs with my random book picks and all sorts of things. It's gonna be great, and I think it's going to also feed into the content creation on the channel as well. Obviously, we are going to be focusing on mood reads again next year, and even more than I did this year, because I kind of started taking a step in that direction and really opening up the door for more mood reads, and getting rid of TBRs, like I said, really helped that. But I want to do it more. I want to make sure that I'm not committing to more than one or two books every month with buddy reads, with read-alongs, or anything like that, to give myself a ton of space to just really get excited about grabbing something off the shelf again. Another thing that I'm going to focus on in 2025 is finishing some series, you guys, because I went through my list and I looked at all of the series that I have started. We're not going to talk about it. I know there's a lot of booktubers doing videos right now about all of the series I've started and haven't finished, and I feel like it's just an example of what I was talking about earlier, where it is really hard to finish series because you're constantly focusing on the new and you know, trying something different. I've also made some content about my TBR veterans and books that have just gotten pushed to the back burner because I had other commitments or other books that I, quote unquote, again, had to read. I'm excited to go to my shelves and pull off some of those TBR veterans and actually get to read them. Let's talk about DNFing a little bit. DNFing is also something that I do. I know when a book is not working for me, and I know when it is negatively impacting my reading experience. I just want to get more okay this next year with dropping books that I'm not having a good time with. Now, let's talk about the part of the video that I'm honestly the most excited about. The first thing that I'm going to be implementing for next year is annotating. I've never had a system for the tabs. I have never written anything in my books except for maybe one or two over the years, and I have never really delved into annotating as deeply as I would like to. And this is one of my recent reads where I read the ebook and I made a ton of annotations, highlights, notes, etc. And when I got my physical copy of the book, I went through and I added all of those annotations into my book the last couple of days. And you guys, I loved it. I loved it so much. The freedom of being able to have a conversation with myself within the book, to annotate and have a system. I'm learning, by the way, from a ton of amazing booktubers, again, that already do this. So in the beginning, I started a key of what all the different tabs relate to. And then I spent time actually color coding all of the tabs. And when I say I'm not an analytical person, I do mean that, but there's something really helpful for my brain specifically in the structure of this to be able to retain the information that I'm reading, to connect with the characters, to be able to articulate how I feel about things and what I'm noticing in terms of theme and development as I go through the story. And so annotating is something that I'm really going to lean into next year. And I think the other thing that's really helpful about it is that it helps me slow down, right? It makes me more thoughtful. It makes me look into the text a little bit deeper. And those are all things that I want to do more of, and I think are really going to help my retention going into next year. And along with that is a reading journal. So I have been bullet journaling on and off for the past 2 years. I really love it. I love the creativity of it. I love the freedom of expression that you can have. You can set it up however you want. And there are so many amazing bullet journaling videos, you guys, on YouTube. And I'll drop a couple down in the comments below. One of my favorite creators when it comes to bullet journaling is Elizabeth from Plant-Based Bride. I'll put her down in the description box below. I love how simply she explains her process and gives you a ton of great ideas and allows kind of the freedom for you to take the suggestions and ideas from hers and apply that to your own personal style. Now, this is the compilation of about 2 years worth of bullet journaling, but I sat down this last week and I just went ham, getting my monthly spreads done from 2024, doing some end of the year stat pages, doing some reading goal pages. I made a page of all of the priority books that I had for 2024 and which of them that I had completed. And again, I think just getting this kind of stuff out of my head and onto paper is so helpful, and the tactile reinforcement that this gives my brain when it comes to my reads is so helpful. So I have already ordered my bullet journal for 2025 and I cannot wait, you guys. I cannot wait to set it up, and I'm going to do my best to film all of that for you so you can see kind of what I'm doing with my setup for 2024. But even stuff like this, having a place where I can keep track of the buddy reads that I've done through the year. And I mean, you can literally do anything you want with this, and I don't want to get too far into it because this isn't a bullet journaling video, but it's something that, again, I think is really going to help my retention. It's going to help me really immerse in my reading experience even more, and it's going to add that fun and spontaneity of like visual creativity, which is something I really love. So those are 2 things you can expect to see a lot more of from me in 2025, I hope. Because having the experience of annotating now and the experience of digging back into bullet journaling has made me realize how much I have just been going through the motions of the next book and then the next book and then the next book. And I have really enjoyed so many of my reads this year, and I still love reading, so there's nothing about that has changed. But I just think that the reading habits that I've picked up this last few years and slowly kind of let get away from me have really changed my reading experience and made it a little bit more mechanical than I would like it to be. Those are some of my goals for 2025 and some of the ways that I'm going to fix my reading habits. I'd love to hear about your experience down in the comments. Feel free to share anything and everything about your reading habits and what you found works best for you. And yeah, I hope you guys are all having a fantastic week. I hope that you are all reading 5-star reads, and I'll see you in the next video.